So today we're channeling our inner Bob Ross / Jenna Marbles, and we are painting a pumpkin. So hi, I'm Mr. Olson's wife, Mrs. Olson. So here's the setup that you're gonna need. You need a pumpkin. It needs to be primed already, or gessoed, or painted white. And then you need the colors. We've got acrylic paint. You're gonna need a little cup of water, a brush or 2 or 5, and then I like to have a paper towel. I also like to have an apron just to cover my clothes. Acrylic does not always wash out of your clothes. Alright, so let's get started. So the first brush I'm going to use is my biggest brush because I want to do the overall color of the pumpkin. So I was given this pumpkin and I thought to myself, what can we do with this pumpkin? It's interesting. So I thought, you know what, this stem looks a little bit like a witch hat, so we're going to turn this pumpkin into a witchy pumpkin with a little black witch hat on top. So the pumpkin itself is going to be green with a black hat and then black hair. Still not sure how I'm going to paint the inside of the mouth, but I guess we'll figure that out as we go. So I want to use my first bigger brush for my local color, and the local color is just the color that it mostly is. So the first thing I want to do is mix that up. So I'm going to start with my lighter color, which is my white here. And I'm just going to mix my white and my green together. Let's see how I feel about it. It's pretty light. When I'm working with acrylics, I don't want my paint to be too watered down. So I just sort of dampen the brush just so the color will flow. That's fine. So I want to just kind of paint the entire pumpkin, really, this first base coat. And then I'm going to come back in with a darker green and a lighter green for the highlight and the low light areas. So I painted my little pumpkin friend green. I think we're going to call her Lucy at this point. I don't know why. So now I'm going to change colors, so I want to wipe off my brush. So the first thing I'm going to do is wipe it off on my paper towel. Then I'm going to run it through my water, and now it's much cleaner. One of the nice things about working with acrylic is how quickly it dries. So since I've just painted this, you would think it would be wet to the touch, which it kind of is, but not that much. So now I'm going to go in with my darker green in the little crevices. So I'm going to go in with a tiny bit of purple, and I'm going to mix in the same area that I mixed my color before. I'm going to add some more purple so I can actually see it. That's a lot darker than my previous color. So let's see how we do. If at first you don't succeed when you're doing a painting, wait for it to dry and paint right over it. So that's kind of neat. Let's pretend I planned that. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a couple of these little darker areas, and you can see I get more bold as I go. And then I want to blend it in because I like to be fancy. So to blend, acrylic is no longer your best friend because it just wants to dry. If you were working with oil paint, it really wants to blend, but acrylic does not. So I wiped off my brush, and so now I just have a lot of water on my brush, and it would be great if I had some more of my original color in reserve, but I did not plan ahead. But look, I can make some more. So now I'm just going to very quickly try to blend them together a little bit. And now I've got some light area, and now I've got some dark area. So now I'm going to go back into my dark because now that's going to be dry. And then I'm just going to kind of paint it out a little bit. And what this is going to do is just going to add a little bit more visual dimension and maybe even some texture to the pumpkin. I know it is a three-dimensional object already, but I want to add lights and shadows to make it look even more three-dimensional, which is kind of weird, but still true. Welcome back. So you can see that I went ahead and added in the dark areas. So my green is fairly light, but I'm still gonna add a couple of highlight areas. So what I did was just to mix the white with a little bit of yellow to make it a little warmer, and then a tiny touch of the green, and so we'll see what it does. So the highlight areas are really gonna be just on the centers, perhaps. And I'm barely touching it to the pumpkin. It's barely touching, just barely. Now, if you are not choosing green for your pumpkin, that's perfectly fine. When I'm trying to make colors darker, I like to add purple. That's just my own personal thing. Black works as well. It's just not going to necessarily be as bright of a color when you add black, and you do have to make sure that you don't add too much black. It's a really strong color. So now I'm going to actually paint in the little witch's, just kidding, I'm going to paint in her hair. I'll put the, because the hair goes under and the witch's cap goes over. So why should she not have purple hair? I don't know, I feel like she should. So let's go ahead and do that. So I don't like to have too much paint on my brush at one time. So I think she should have some fringe bangs. Because that's how I feel about it. So the great thing about painting is it's whatever you want it to be. And again, if you don't like it, wait for it to dry and then paint right over it. Sometimes you're gonna find things work beautifully and sometimes they're not going to. I'm really happy about the green and the purple mixing together because that makes me happy. But maybe green and purple are not your best. So I'm going to remember she's a three-dimensional object and I'm just going to paint all the way around. I know I just did all this careful work and here I am painting right over it. But you might be able to see that it's kind of picking up the colors underneath. You might want to kind of draw things out on your pumpkin with a pencil, which I clearly did not do. That might be a good idea. Planning usually doesn't hurt. I can go in and highlight and low light my purple just like I did with my green if I want to. So purple's already so dark, so if I was going to low light it, I would be using black. I know I just said I use purple to make things darker, but when I'm working with purple, the only thing darker than that really is black. So I might go in and do that. Okay, so we're back. It's pretty much finished almost, so I added some more things. I don't know where we left off, but I finished painting in the hair purple. I added some highlights of white and light purple. Then I went ahead and added some spiders in her hair because it looks a little too plain. For the eyes and the mouth, I went with white and orange mixed with yellow, so it looked like there was a little candle inside. And then I went ahead and painted her black hat. As you can see here, I wanted to do a little yellowish ribbon around it, but I didn't wait till the paint dried, so yeah. I'm gonna have to let the paint dry and then I'll go back in and clean that up. And then I wanted to highlight the edges of the hat, and that didn't work so great either, so I will let that dry and finish that up. Okay, bye for now.